I'm just going to shoot you straight here. If you're only going to play pickleball a couple of times this year, or if you're going to play for the first time and you just need something to hit with, by all means, whatever cheap paddle you can find at Walmart or Amazon or whatever is probably going to be just fine. But if you want to play just a little more regularly, or are ready to have something better than a cheapo wooden paddle set, there's a huge difference in performance and quality between low-tier cheapo paddles and good quality paddles for comparable or just a little bit more money that last quite literally 10 times as long. There are a lot of paddles out there and it can be hard to figure out where to start, so I've put together a list of my top 5 paddles for beginner level pickleball players. I've put a lot of thought into it, and the things that I took into account for this list were price, performance, return policies and warranties, and any other cool or unique things that the companies or their paddles could offer. And I should mention that while I think these paddles are great for beginners, I do know a lot of really high-level players that use some of these paddles, so don't think that just because they are on a list good for beginners, they can't deliver high performance. And though I rank these paddles 1 through 5, it would be reasonable for a person to change the specific order of these top 5 paddles based on the things they prioritize, such as price or playability aspects. So without any further delay, here's my list of the top 5 pickleball paddles for beginners. Starting our list at number 5 is Vatic Pro's Vatic Prism Flash. The Vatic Prism Flash is a control-oriented paddle that seems to make its way onto a lot of different categorical lists, including top value paddles, good control paddles, and here on the list of best paddles for beginners. The Vatic Prism Flash is made from raw carbon fiber, which is a woven material that produces great spin and is the material most top quality paddles are made from right now. It has playability attributes that suit most beginning pickleball players well, such as good control, spin, and maneuverability. The Vatic Prism Flash comes in what's called a hybrid shape, which is sort of halfway between the length and width of elongated and standard shaped paddles and has round upper corners. These paddle shapes are pretty popular because they seem to get a little of both worlds, with having longer reach than standard paddles and a wider face and bigger sweet spot than elongated shaped paddles, and the numbers 5, 4, and 1 paddles on this list are all hybrid shaped. Vatic offers a 30-day window where you can return the paddle if you don't like it, and is covered under a 90-day warranty. With this channel's discount code, you can get the Vatic Prism Flash for $90. I'll also put a link to that in the description below. Coming in at number 4 is Aiso Pickleball's Isocentric. Like the Vatic Prism Flash, the Isocentric is also hybrid shaped and made with carbon fiber, but the Aiso is made via thermoforming. Without getting into too much detail, thermoforming is a way of manufacturing paddles using different heat parameters and production processes to adhere layers of the paddle together and encase the edges. Thermoform paddles tend to hit a little harder and have a little higher spin rates than non-thermoformed carbon fiber paddles, but they are usually a little more expensive and come with a more stiff feeling face that some people do not prefer. The Isocentric has a little of both of these worlds and is actually one of my favorite feeling paddles that has somehow maintained a softer feeling face that produces a good trampoline type feel when hitting the ball at high spin rates. It has a really great look and is pretty affordable, and I think this would be a good paddle for you if you want a soft feeling paddle with a sleek design that produces great spin and has just a touch more power than the Vatic Prism Flash, but don't want to be too overwhelmed with a paddle that is overly poppy. Aiso Pickleball has a 30-day return policy and a 90-day warranty, and you can pick this guy up for under $100 with this channel's discount code PBMED or by using the link in the description below. And this brings us to paddle number 3 on this list, Ethos Pickleball's Telos paddle. Somehow this paddle snuck under my radar when I made my list of budget-friendly paddles with good performance. But I found the Telos to be fun and easy to use while still being relatively affordable. The Telos is also made of carbon fiber and has a unique design model aimed at maximizing maneuverability and aerodynamics. It has an overall length that puts it in the elongated paddle category, with a handle and face shape that make it a little more unique than other 16.5-inch paddles. At 6 inches long, it has one of the most generous handle lengths on the market, and it has this sort of flared shape, sort of cutting out the bottom corners on the paddle face, which makes extra room for 2 hands and gives you a feel during gameplay that you have this super extended reach, making flicks and rolls extremely fun and always tempting. The overall width at the top of the paddle is very comparable to a regularly shaped paddle face, and since the bottom corners aren't usually an area you hit the ball with, the only question is how that affects the size of the sweet spot. Though I don't understand the physics behind it, the sweet spot feels subjectively good, and I didn't notice myself hitting more edge shots than I usually do. The spin is good and on par with other good raw carbon fiber paddles, and I would say it's a good control paddle that has good power capability generated from the leverage of the paddle, and that the paddle face itself has a plush feel that doesn't have high levels of pop or instant rebound when you initially contact the ball. This would be a good paddle for you if you prioritize maneuverability, reach, and spin over high levels of pop, which is usually not a very beginner-friendly attribute, and though certainly not exclusively, I would extra recommend this paddle for people who have a background in racket sports and like the feel of swinging the longer rackets from those sports. The Telos is not made from thermoforming, which is what gives it the softer feel, but has a thermoformed counterpart called the RT, which may be a better choice if you want more of a thermoformed feel at a slightly higher cost. Like the RT, the Telos comes in either a black or their new hot pink design with a white handle, and I personally love the look that a hot pink overgrip adds to that pink design. Ethos Pickleball has a 30-day return policy and has a warranty double the length of the previous two paddles on this list. This channel's discount code PBMED gets you 20% off any paddle on the Ethos website, which brings the Telos under the $100 mark. Coming in at number 2 is Volair's Mach 2. This is a paddle that's loved by beginners, intermediate, and advanced players alike. Like all the paddles on this list, it's made of a quality carbon fiber material, and like the Telos paddle, it comes in a unique shape, but in a different way than Telos does. The Mach 2 is a wide body paddle, so it's a little shorter and obviously more wide than some other paddle layouts. This makes it have a very large sweet spot and minimizes the dead spots around the paddle face, and therefore dinking, dropping, and plain old directing the ball where you want it to go is as easy as it gets. Even though overall length is reduced to make room for the wide face, it maintains a long 5.5-inch handle, which can fit 2 hands if you like that as well. It comes in 2 thickness options, a 14mm or 16mm option, and I personally prefer the 16mm thickness, as 2 paddles with the same design tend to have more control and spin with the thicker paddles, and while the paddles with the more thin faces have a little bit more pop. It's notable that the spin produced by the Mach 2 is very high, and this is probably due to many reasons, some of which are its material composition and how easy it is to swing the slightly paddle quickly, because like the Telos, it happens to be a pretty maneuverable paddle. This would be a good paddle for you if you prioritize control, spin, and maneuverability over reach and power. The Mach 2 is a non-thermoform paddle, and you'll see on the Volair website that the Mach 2 also has a thermoform counterpart, the Mach 2 Forza, which like the regular Mach 2 has great spin and actually has some of the highest recorded RPM measurements to date, but is a little bit more expensive, which is why I put the Mach 2 on this list instead of the Mach 2 Forza. Volair offers a 30-day return policy and a 90-day warranty, and the discount code PickleballMed gets you 10% off Volair paddles, bringing the Mach 2 to $125. Before we reveal the number 1 paddle, I thought I'd let you know that I'll link a list of paddle specifications at the end of this video for each of the paddles on this list. And if you've enjoyed the review, don't forget to subscribe. And that brings us to the final paddle and the number 1 on this list for the top paddles for beginners, Friday Pickleball Paddles. While it was hard to order some of the other paddles on this list, there were several additive features that made Friday Pickleball an easy pick for the number 1 spot on this list. The first of which is the overall price value and safety net with these paddle purchases. Through this channel, Friday Pickleball offers 2 thermoformed carbon fiber paddles for $95 or 1 for $62, and the easiest way to do that is by ordering through the links that have those deals embedded in the description below. You'll notice that if you do the 2 paddle option through that link and go to your cart, the initial price is $99, but when you proceed through checkout, the price of these paddles reduces back to that $95 mark. This is great if you want a set of paddles for you and someone else, or a second designer backup paddle for yourself. The safest thing about ordering a paddle from Friday Pickleball, for a player at any level, is their very long 99-day happiness guarantee return policy. You can literally play with the paddle for as long as you want within those 99 days, and if you decide you don't like it, you can return it for a full refund on the cost of the paddle. You just have to ship it back in yourself. I did a pretty thorough and detailed inspection of these paddles, and they perform pretty well. These paddles are pretty well balanced in playability attributes, and I would consider them to be an all-around court paddle that leans on the side of power, and they produce excellent spin. They are carbon fiber and thermoformed, with one of the strengths of the Friday paddles being that they produce a little more power, or top ball speed, than most of the other paddles on this list, and they do have a face that is on the more stiff feeling side. They come with a nice handle grip with these sort of grooves to slide your fingers in, and it comes in the hybrid shape that we've been discussing in this video. Friday Pickleball has made a good appeal to the fun side of pickleball, offering several options for colorful and unique looks, and you can mix and match any of them for the 2 for $95 deal that I mentioned before. Friday Pickleball is littered with tons of positive reviews, and it seems like I'm seeing these paddles more and more frequently as I travel around to play, which I think is pretty cool. This would be a good paddle for you if you prioritize price value, want a paddle with a little more power, and like the designs offered by Friday Pickleball. And if you want even more details about these paddles, including specific stats and the in and outs of playability and durability, you can reference my full-length review on the Friday paddles that I'll put in a clickable tag in the top right corner of this video. That's my list of the top 5 paddles that I'd recommend to beginner-level pickleball players. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed the review.